You're someone with a vision for your practice, for your side hustle, and for your personal journey. But when it comes to establishing your path on how to get to where you want to be with your practice, things get a little messy. You're also someone who'd prefer to go in person instead of to groups and listening to everyone else's story. To me, it sounds like you could benefit from one-on-one consulting with our experienced practice of the practice consultants. From $5.95 a month and up, you can work with a consultant that will give you more direction and practical tried and tested tips matched to you and your goals. For more information, visit practiceofthepractice.com/apply. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/apply. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanak, session number 1099. Hey, everybody. Welcome. So glad that you are here. We're going to get kicked off in just a moment. Welcome to the third webinar for Level Up Week. We've been kicking out 2 more, and then we have 1 more today, and we have 4 a day for the next 3 days. So make sure you stick around. In the next webinar, so let me share with you our screen share thingy, and tell you a little bit about Steve, who is hanging out with us today. So welcome. We are talking marketing a private practice. And if you haven't joined us this morning, the first 2 were a lot more just along the lines of just like planned presentations, walking through, filling up your practice. But this one and then the one after this are a lot more conversational. So we have Steve with us, who I'll introduce in just a second. Then we have Isaac afterwards, half an hour afterwards, that's going to be talking about multi-site location practices. So how do you run it in 3 different places? So really excited today. If I have not met you yet, I'm Joe Sanak, and I'm the founder of Practice of the Practice. We started that back in 2012. We've helped thousands of therapists to build a thriving practice they absolutely love. Been doing the podcast for a while. We passed episode 1,000 earlier this year in June, and we're about to hit episode 1,100 probably in mid-October. So we're doing 5 to 6 a week, and it's just amazing to just see the level of people we're attracting as guests. We just a lot of the episodes that we just recorded, Josh, who's on our team, has been really doing some good analysis of people. And man, we've had USA Today bestselling authors. We've had just some top keynote speakers. One guy was ranked the #1 expert on workplace culture by Inc. magazine. And so just these really awesome interviews that are coming up. So if you've missed any of the Practice of Practice podcast, we'd love for you to check out those. Just the game is getting raised by the team. They're like doing an amazing job. So, we get 60,000 to 100,000 listens a month, and done a lot of other things, but my biggest role is being a single dad to my 2 awesome daughters. They're 10 and 13. We have so much fun together. We were on the beach yesterday. I got to go paddleboarding, and we went out for tacos, and it was just like, you don't know in Michigan when it's going to snow. So, I mean, like, it literally last week was in the 50s. So you just never know. So we take advantage of those days as much as possible. And we are lucky enough to have Steve Turney with us. So Steve owns and runs the Mental Health Marketing Conference, which is a 3-day experience for behavioral health marketers, executives, and clinicians that feeds the mind, fills the heart, and fuels connectivity. The 9th annual Mental Health Marketing Conference is October 1st through 3rd. So that's in just a couple of weeks. I'm going to be doing the closing capstone there on Thursday morning, talking about Thursday is the new Friday and some other things. So really excited to be hanging out with Steve in person. We've never met in person, so that's always so fun to do. So Steve, welcome. So glad to have you here.
I'm so glad to be here. You mentioned we haven't met in person, and I that's true, but I feel like I've met you in person. Follow you on Instagram, and I do love your family posts. It's so cool to see your priorities and your values and things like that. But it's great to be here again with you.
Yeah, it's really interesting how it's like, all my team in South Africa I've never met in person, but it's like I feel this connection with people that it transcends seeing someone in person. So
just right off the top, I want to thank you for sending me these books. We're going to be giving out about 90 of those Thursdays the New Friday books at your capstone presentation. You're going to kick things off Thursday morning. It's like one of the biggest last presentations we have. So kind of save the best for last and then give away 90 books is so cool. So thanks for doing that.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be so fun. Well, Steve, let's talk a little bit about just marketing in general. And so I know you have the pulse on a lot of different aspects of the marketing world. Let's just start like really big picture. You've been a part of many Level Up weeks. You've been on the podcast. I always like to just start with like, what are you seeing in the marketing world shift that maybe 6 months or a year ago wasn't happening?
6 months or a year ago. I think certainly we're seeing the continuation of people talk about referrals starting to be not as slushy as they were before. So, I was watching that trend, 6, 12 months ago, and that continues to actually probably change the delta or the momentum on that. So I hear a chatter on LinkedIn and other places about that continuing to be something that a lot of clinicians and therapists are going to need to, make sure their books are full. Whereas, 3, 4 years ago, just flying in the door. And yes, there's still access challenges to be had, but there's that. I think that's the big one that comes to mind. That's the big trend is that, referrals compared to 3, 5 years ago are just in a very different place right now.
Yeah. Now, when you think about challenges that the average clinician has, so we've got people that like there's one person that she's starting her practice in January. So like brand new, just passed the exams. And the last one, gave her big high fives virtually. And there's people that here probably have 30, 40 clinicians. So big kind of differences in kind of focus. But like, where do most therapy type people screw up marketing?
Mm. Probably fear, probably not being familiar with it or good at it or judging themselves for not being good at it. And so probably maybe not being as consistent as they could or should be with their marketing or even their branding. I mean, their branding being that promise that you're making out there in the marketplace, which is definitely part of your marketing strategy. Whether or not you need new clients today or tomorrow, you should make it easy for anybody who meets you online to say, this is the experience that I expect to get at this place. And once I have it, it's the same. It's authentic. There's a through line all the way. So there's always a long-term need to be building our brands. And that doesn't mean our logos, but our actual promises that we're making in the market. And then just, whether it's just, I don't want to use the word ignorance, but there's a lot of things we just don't know about. We're not experts in everything. So clinicians come out of school oftentimes underprepared for the marketing and business side. And I could say the same thing about accounting or, a couple other back of house things. But marketing is one of those things that is one of the keystones for, growth success is that awareness turning into interest, turning into engagement, turning into new clients or new patients, whatever the semantics are. So, just either kind of failing to plan forward with your marketing or feeling overwhelmed by it. I think fear is more than anything what especially a first time clinician coming into the market might be overwhelmed by.
Yeah, no, thanks for breaking that down. I think that yeah, we're continuing to see that people just aren't sure how to market. They want to do it right, and I think that's we want as a baseline, we want people to go into therapy that want to do it right. Like we don't want people that are just like, well, spaghetti at the wall, we'll see if it works. Like we want our natural postures to be around like good training and good ways of thinking about it, good ethics, all of that. And when it comes to marketing, that's not always the best mindset to go into it. Can you talk a little bit about kind of mindsets you see? And before we get to that, we're going to probably in 5 minutes or so start taking your questions. So this is not a just Joe interview. I want you to say, here's where I'm at. I want to, dig in with Steve a little bit. If you want to virtually raise your hand, then just down below, click raise your hand. That means that you want to come on camera, ask Steve a question. We'll pin you in front of everybody so that we can have a conversation. If you just have a question you think Steve can just answer and you don't need a back and forth, just put that in the chat. So we'll go to that in just a second. But mindsets, Steve, like what kind of mindsets would you challenge? Would you encourage when it comes to marketing our practices?
Yeah, there's like if you think of a bell curve, there's two mindsets that I would bring to mind. One is the G.K. Chesterton quote, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. So just simply starting, talking about the health of your practice. Let's talk about if you want to get in shape, what do you do? Well, you simply begin. You don't try to do too much. You just begin and you set a baseline. And that's more often than not the magic, and then go back. So, the consistency in marketing is the name of the game. It doesn't have to be the very best, brightest, most beautiful logo you've ever seen in the world, or the social media post that changes the world. You're in a kind of a current of a river of information flowing. So what you want somebody to do is every time they see your brand, your logo, they want to get that same impression. And when I see the practice of the practice chair, that blue color, the name is great. I think I know what I'm going to get every time. And that's great marketing and branding. On the other hand of that bell curve is if you're in a place and a maturation of your business, to consider, expertise in marketing, rather than home rolling it yourself or doing it yourself with your own in-house team. It's well worth looking at marketing agencies and PR firms that this is their expertise. The same way that if I need coaching, I'll go to an LPC, in no time, because that's the way I can easily find my true north and connect with my emotional intelligence. It's the same thing for marketing. Not every agency is fabulous or great, but especially if you can get an agency that doesn't have a long learning curve around the language of mental health and the nuances of mental health, and certainly HIPAA compliance is in there. I just love expertise. And so there's an opportunity to think about outsourcing that rather than, building it yourself.
Yeah. Well, as we have those questions start to come in and you all start to raise your hands, I'm going to ask Steve just a couple more questions, but jump to the front of the line. Every single one of these, we get to the end and there's more questions than we have time to get through. So get in early and often. So Steve, like when you think about, I don't know, maybe the 3 or 5 bullet points of marketing a practice that you're like, okay, if someone's only going to put in a handful of areas that they're going to work on, like what would you say they should be working on? Yeah, what would you say they should be working on?
Mm-hmm. Get your website right. That's real estate that you own out there in the internet. And there's a lot of different trends and phases that come and go. And, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, these are important channels, but, that's all leased space. And I would say, the front door to your practice is your website. And websites have been designed for Google, really. Google is your big customer there. So, I think your content marketing strategy is kind of the big next rock that you need to be thinking about on a regular basis. What you're consistently dripping and putting effort into is, what am I saying out in the market that people can find that's relevant and fresh and clinically rigorous and also accessible to the people that I want to either target or attract? Because Google feeds off of consistently fresh information. And that information, that content can be repurposed down into little short videos for your social media channels. I think a lot of therapists get it kind of backwards. They see social media and they think, well, that's where I need to spend my marketing. And those are wonderful places. You can definitely double down on a channel and have a ton of success. But social media, for the most part, is awareness, and it doesn't drive into transaction all the time as much as using social media as sort of a tentacle to the octopus or to the mother base, and attracting those people to your website, to those places that you own. Your email marketing list is definitely another big rock that I would consider putting a lot of time into, because that is where somebody feels safe. They pretty much own that environment when they get messages. We get a lot of messages, so they also need to be relevant and at times urgent or entertaining or compelling, something to get the awareness. But that's oftentimes where transactions will happen. They'll maybe click through to a landing page, that maybe to your intake form, things like that. And then I think getting good at video is a big one. So I'm a co-founder of a new company called My Practice Video. I'm not going to pitch that here, but I mention it because I'm really excited about making video marketing easier for people, because therapists are I think naturally inclined and definitely clinically trained to stay out of the room. And so you certainly see some therapists that are aggressive or very proactive with their video creation, and that's usually a wonderful thing. But I think a lot of us are hesitant about putting our face on camera. And so how to do that well in this age where, the website is no longer about just text that Google will read and process, and our social media feeds. If you think about Facebook 10 years ago versus the video that you see today, or Instagram, it's a video first world. So there's that. Those are some of the big rocks. I think those four, website, content marketing, yes, social media channels for sure, and how to use video well.
So awesome. Yeah. We just did in Next Level Practice, we just had Michael Kent, who I think he's coming to the Mental Health Marketing Conference. He came and spoke to us about doing good video, and like that's all he does is video and photo. So yeah, cool. We have a question. So Allison couldn't virtually raise her hand. Just want to remind you all how to do that. So at the bottom, you'll see React. If you click on React, you'll see Raise My Hand. So sometimes it's a bit confusing. It used to be just right at the bottom, but now it's under React. So I think Zoom did an update. So if you can't find that and you want to ask a question, feel free to do that, or you can just put it into the chat. Allison, go ahead. You're welcome to turn on video if you want. If not, that's cool too.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for that reminder. I don't use Zoom super often. We're a Teams place. So cool. Well, I just want to say first, thanks also for hosting all these free workshops. It's been helpful to join. I've done a few this morning, so appreciate it. But long and short, my question is really about synthesizing marketing metrics. So we have a guy that does Google Ads and SEO. We have another guy that does marketing. We just updated our website. This second guy helps with just ideas for how to, build more traffic, get more calls, things like that. And as very much a non-marketer, I don't always know how to synthesize the information about your Google Ads look good, your SEO looks good, your ranking here, your terms are this, where you should change this, you shouldn't change that. So just any general thoughts, feedback on how someone who's not marketing minded can really feel more comfortable in that space.
Yeah, that's a great question. And thanks for coming on video. It's nice to see you. And it's nice to see so many people on this webinar. It's amazing, the poll that Joe Stanek has. I would say, one, it's your right to ask those experts to make it as simple as possible for you. That's on them to communicate it clearly. I'll oftentimes, because I'm in your seat too, quite honestly, and I'll say, say it to me like I'm 5. And, that report needs to be drilled down into 2 or 3 recommendations, not simply the data. So sometimes marketing analysts and marketers generally will want to deliver results for you. So they send you these reports that have a lot of information. You don't need the data. You need the analysis. So, make sure you're getting the top level insights that they recommend. The onus should be on them to recommend, but it's on you to say what your goals are. And so, the business goals, working backward from the business goals and meeting them as they come forward from this SEO. You don't need to know a ton about what your keywords are doing, or if it's a long tail approach versus short tail. You want to see those 3 or 4 metrics that are typically engagement focused. So, you want to see people on your website for a healthy amount of time that aren't bouncing immediately. You want to see your intake form being engaged on a regular or growing basis. Lead acquisition tracking is sometimes a little tricky, so you can't always hold their feet to the fire for not everything is measurable. But if you can see, you kind of need to pick what your metrics are. So is it email list growth? Is that where you're feeling like this is my closed garden? And once I get somebody in here, then I can look at my click-through rate. And the click-through rate typically leads to 2 new clients a month, something like that. So definitely, bring your business mind to it, and then pick your small goals that are going to drive results, and then they can tweak and play around with A/B tests for your Google ads and all of those things. They don't necessarily need to be beautiful, but they do need to be testing those ads. So make sure they're running 4 to 6 when they can, and let the algorithm kind of do some of that work if they're not already. It doesn't need to be on you to say, well, this is the one with the person whose smile I like the best. I get into those moments where I'm like, I don't know. You don't have to know. You can let the machines do that work. But again, and I'll stop with this, but be cognizant of what your goals are with those ads. So if your goal is top level awareness, and it's one thing. If you want to see click throughs to a specific landing page, that's another thing, and that all ties back from your business. Is that helpful at all, or do you have a follow on question?
No, that's super helpful. I think I don't want to get into the weeds of it. That's why we pay people to do that in my, idea. And so I think being very clear of asking them to make it really clear it's a good reminder we can do that they don't just get to send us this and be like, and that's that sort of thing.
Yeah, read this 10-page report.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's it. You're not quite done there.
I appreciate you bringing that up. And when we work with group practice owners, oftentimes we talk about the Carver model. So the Carver model is actually a nonprofit board governance. And so the model is the board of directors sets the ends. So we want to alleviate homelessness in the area. And then the CEO or executive director creates the means. How are we going to get there? And I think this is a helpful mindset of saying, okay, ad agency, we want more clients for these 2 new clinicians. They specialize. One is a play therapist. The other is helping with post-divorce. We want them to be full within the next 60 days. You tell me the means of how we're going to get there, and how are you going to report that out to me, once a week, just a forward, backward report. This next week we're doing this. Last week we did this. Just every Friday, every Monday, whatever it is. Just give me a quick, where are we at with those ends that I want? That can, to me, then help me focus on where do I actually want to head? And you figure out how we're going to get there. You're the expert. This also works great with even a virtual assistant or a regular assistant. If you're like, okay, I want to know how many sessions happened every week. I want to know how many conversions there were. I want to know how many no-shows, or whatever your 2 or 3 big dashboard things are. You tell me how you're going to get that information as my executive assistant. And then, tell me how often you're going to tell me that. So that whole ends and means to me has been so helpful for not getting in the weeds like what you're talking about.
Awesome. I appreciate it, y'all.
Something always comes up when you're running a private practice. Well, Gusto's payroll and HR services can make it a little easier. Gusto was designed for you, the small business owner. They take the pain out of running a business, automatically calculating paychecks, filing payroll taxes, setting up open enrollment. Gusto does it all. Want more? Time tracking, health insurance, 401k, onboarding, commuter benefits, offer letters, access to HR experts. You get the idea. With Gusto, you can focus on the joy of running your business. It's super easy to set up and get started. And if you're moving from another provider, Gusto can transfer all the data for you. It's no surprise 99% of businesses said the value they get for Gusto is worth the price. And here's the best part. Because you're a listener, you get 3 months totally free. All you have to do is go to gusto.com/Joe. Again, that's gusto.com/Joe. I'm telling you, you're going to love Gusto. Get started today. let's bounce back over. I see we've got some chat coming through, Steve. Um, we got recently invested in a website and hesitated, but now feel confident it was the right move. Stephanie would love to hear more about that. Stephanie follows up with, do you see benefit for using a platform like LinkedIn instead of Facebook or Instagram since they are so saturated? So, Steve, what are your thoughts on that?
I love LinkedIn. I personally, because the nature of my business is B2B, I've invested heavily in LinkedIn. I invest nothing in Twitter and very little in Facebook, although I do think Facebook definitely has merit. My personal experience with Facebook is a lot of robots, but I know there's a ton of people and especially groups that are really productive and active on there. So, I don't want to naysay anything about Facebook. I think it's great. But I do think LinkedIn is the least of the spammy social media channels, and again, from my experience and the people I talk to. And it's very professional. So it does have this unspoken culture of you basically avoid political things. You basically avoid some of those hot button issues that can rile us up sometimes. So you do have an opportunity to make a great voice and a professional appearance. And if you Google yourself, like Google your name, more often than not, I mean, LinkedIn is way up there in the search results. So other people are doing that too. And it's a social proof that you can have out there. So I would invest some time in it. And you can do things where you can use different social aggregator tools. I don't have one to pitch specifically, but tools that let you post in multiple places at the same time. Essentially, Hootsuite would be one that comes to mind. That's pretty common, a little pricey, but we use it. It's worth it. So, yeah, Facebook and LinkedIn, Instagram. Instagram is great. Instagram is also aging. And I think TikTok is definitely relevant and having its moment in the sun. And then it comes down to, what's my investment in this channel, and am I willing to commit to this long term? And I did commit to LinkedIn. I saw that and like, this was for me. And it was like 15 years ago. And I just continued to drip away, send out invites and be consistent with the content. And it's amazing. Like, so many people that I meet that I've never met before, the first thing they'll say, or one of the first things is, "Oh, I've seen you on LinkedIn." And sometimes it's like, "Oh, I've seen you on LinkedIn." It's like so much. But I'm like, "Hey, here we are." And it did work. So, you got to be empathetic about the reader. You're not just going to send out every last thing, but yeah, I think for a therapist out there, developing a professional brand and a look about yourself, LinkedIn is a great channel for that.
Well, I think that you touch on a good point, Steve, where it's like finding where you enjoy it too. Like clearly, as you talk about LinkedIn, you like it and you enjoy that. Like I hate LinkedIn. Like I go on there once or twice a month to like connect a little bit, but it's like I just don't like it. Whereas showing up for a podcast, like clearly I do it 5 or 6 days a week, just talking with people, making those connections, having the team do it. Like it's so easy for me. And so finding like what's the thing you can do consistently that you also don't hate. So I think that like then like the people that like LinkedIn, like you, are going to find you there. And like if you were a therapist, it'd be like, oh, like Steve is cut from the same cloth. And so like I want to hang out with him and do therapy with him or whatever, refer people. Whereas if we force ourselves into like doing a TikTok dance where we feel all awkward and it's like we're doing it for the likes, it's like it's never going to convert because it's like those aren't your people.
That is a great point. And it gets into like the kind of our happiness quotient as we do this. Like we have to do this stuff. So, let's not forget about ourselves and the way that, dopamine might interact with serotonin or, cannabinoids or opioids in our mind and, those natural receptors that we have when we're doing things that are creating friendships and meaning and recognition. And, a lot of the algorithms are based on feeding that dopamine hit for us, but it's a natural thing. It's not a bad thing that we have this in our system. It's just being aware of it and using it for our own good along the way and making sure that that's a great point. And making sure that we're, your point is great. Mine is rambling.
No, yours is awesome too.
But just to make sure that it's benefiting the individual and the community at the same time.
Katie, you had asked what platforms do you suggest for video content recording? Before Steve fields this, I'd love if you're able to unmute yourself just so that we can, and maybe turn your video on, just to ask some follow-up questions. Because I can imagine that based on your goals will probably be how Steve answers it. So if you're able to do that, would love that. If you can't do that, that's totally fine. But let's just see if Katie's able to unmute and join us to ask a couple follow-up questions there. If not, we'll do our best. But
Hey, so sorry, just caught the end of that. I had somebody call our practice, so I had to jump on, but then heard my name. So,
all good. Yeah, so I was just asking if you didn't mind coming on for us to ask some questions about your goals around platforms we suggest for video content recording.
yeah. So, our practice, we are a smaller practice, less than 10. And we kind of in our ideal, what we put out on social media is kind of labeled as icing on the cake, right? And we really focus on customer service, making sure that we are converting inquiries into clients, making sure that we are paying attention to our clients who are there within our practice. And so we have started dabbling into the social media realm. We have created a Meet the Team reel, which is just a quick, fun, catchy thing. But what I have found in the editing process, I've previously used Adobe Premiere Pro. I've used iMovie. I've used things of that nature. But what I found as challenging was everybody's video recording. Audios were different, and you can pick up on everybody's like mouth clicks and this and that, and I am kind of a perfectionist, and so it was like, how much do I hyper focus on this? But we want to put out this content so people can know who our team is, and we put it out on Instagram and Facebook. And thank you for the LinkedIn aspect and recommendation, because that's a really good plug as well. But how would you recommend for people to record? I think that a lot of them did it on their phones or through a camera on their laptop, but would you recommend Zoom? Would you recommend another platform to record?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would love Joe's insight on this too. I would say, you even see professional ad firms these days going real casual on even television commercials. So, the video quality, it's nice to not have grainy video, but audio is really important. Like if you have to invest in one thing, being a perfectionist, you may want to look at a post-production editor, and you can find those pretty inexpensively depending on what you want the output to be or the job of this video to be. I use Riverside FM, and I really like it for recording. If you're recording more like kind of how-to courses or like showing somebody around a website, Loom is a great tool to use. But for me, Riverside is typically what I use to record. I'll put it into a service called Descript, which gives me a lot of AI tools and a little bit better video editing. I like iMovie too. I can get a lot of good results out of that. But they don't have quite the audio reduction where Riverside and also Descript will take out all the ums and the ahs and the little sound clicks sometimes. But you might need a person, and it's not a full-time hire. You can just outsource that for, $100, couple $100 for a video clip. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I would say really categorizing in your head, like what are the 3 to 5 pillar videos that you like that they just need to represent your practice. So like a meet the team kind of thing would probably be some of those, maybe each person having their own like professionally done video where it's, a minute, maybe 90 seconds of them just talking about their approach to therapy, who they help, things like that. Maybe one that has to do with the specialty of the clinic. And those are ones that I would say are worth hiring a videographer for half a day or a day to have that consistent audio. They have the same mic, they have the same lighting. Maybe it's in different spots in your office, but you can just get that consistency for those pillar videos. And then I'd say the other ones are more ongoing videos. So social media, things like that. I mean, even like the default Reels templates can do a lot just within the default on Instagram. I think most people on social media aren't usually expecting and even sometimes they're turned off by too professional of a video. So like, for example, we're hosting a conference next spring called the Group Practice Boss Conference here. And, spring looks different in Michigan than other parts of the year. So I recorded this past spring a whole bunch of video, just like when I was walking to school with my daughter, walking along the flowers, like, hey, it's springtime in Northern Michigan. We're doing the Group Practice Boss Conference in a couple weeks. Make sure you sign up. And so it's like, those are just casual with my phone type of things. The audio doesn't have to be much better than what's on my phone for that type of video, because it's more important to have the quantity of content rather than the quality in that situation. So I think there are things though that you can set up in your office, like having a selfie stick that people can take outside with them or can put on a tripod. Maybe having a Bluetooth microphone that people can put on their shirts if they're going to record something. But I think the idea, what I heard you say that I would challenge is, you said something along the lines of, I'm not sure how they recorded, if it was on their video or on their phone or on their, like, the reason you have a bunch of different looks is it wasn't all on one device. And so we just, probably would say, okay, this day's recording day, or, you get this 15 minutes, it's all on your phone and it's all on some other camera. Then it's a lot easier for someone that's doing editing to then say, okay, consistently we have this buzzing sound in the background across all the videos because it was all on one person's phone that has the buzzing, versus we have 12 different reels and 12 different sounds. But yeah, I think having even just an editor for some of your social media stuff, they're not that expensive. And that's something that our team, it's full right now, but we take on clients once in a while to do that kind of work on just a kind of ad hoc basis.
Well, in a follow-up kind of question to that, or statement, I would say, is our practice does have some of our therapists located in other states. And so, it's kind of hard to bring everybody in person. But that was after that learning experience was like, you know what, maybe we should have done it all. I scheduled a 15-minute recording session in Zoom, recorded on that, and, be able to capitalize. But I didn't know if there was a good virtual recording platform that can be done to record things. But I appreciate the help in the Riverside and the Descript and the Loom.
We use Zencaster for all of our podcast recording. It's very similar to Riverside, where it comes in as two separate tracks. So then the audio engineer, if one person's sound is too low, they can pull it up or things like that. I mean, the big thing, in my opinion, if you're doing virtual, is making sure they have some sort of headphones with a mic that's close to them, if it's just some AirPods, and then having at least two sources of light, usually at 2 and 10, that are on their face so that they're well lit. Those things alone will make it look so much better than anything else with the cameras we have today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Next question is, do you have any thoughts and recommendations for VA Fatima, we may have some follow-up questions there. Feel free to unmute. And if you want to turn your video on, I'd love to hear more of what kind of VA marketing, because that's a broad industry. So
thank you so much. I'm in the gym. That's why you don't want to see my face and the way I'm looking sweaty. So
Good
sorry about
you.
that. I'm having a really hard time. I don't want to do all of this stuff. I have a lot of people working for me. I'm seeing patients at the same time. I want a VA who can manage a lot of the email marketing, really help me with like launching this. I have a book I've already written, but my ebooks, all of the stuff you talk about. And I've had horrific experiences with Fiverr, getting VAs that way. I just spoke to a company named Assist World. Just wanting to see what your thoughts are. If you have someone reputable that's not going to cost an arm and a leg, that really actually can help.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. I don't know what you mean by an arm and a leg, but other than, expensive, but, there's VAs, virtual assistants that can help you with so many things. And then there are freelance, contract marketers that, a VA is typically more often than not sort of a catch-all. They'll watch your inbox, they'll make appointments, they'll do social media posts, all sorts of things for you. And that's wonderful. And, oftentimes very cost effective. Sometimes I would drill in just another level into expertise and try to see what your specific marketing needs are and see if there's somebody out there more on the freelance side of things or part-time gig that maybe a specialist or an expert in, let's say, search engine optimization, creating some long form content and making sure your website has all the keywords and the tags that are necessary. So that's another way to tackle that. It still can be virtual. It still can be a ton of assistance, but they may just work under a different name than a VA.
Okay, so any recommendations in terms of where to go to hire someone that could be like a dedicated digital marketer for me instead of like taking one person from here, another person from there, someone
Yeah.
that could actually manage those things on a more regular basis and is dedicated, like could become part of my team.
Yeah. If you want somebody to be part of your team, that's one thing. I mean, shameless plug, I would definitely say come to the Mental Health Marketing Conference. It's the community for behavioral health and mental health marketers to get together. And there's oftentimes people there who do these services, copywriters and paid ad specialists. It is a benefit of working with an agency is that you don't get one person, but you might get part of 5 people, and those 5 people work as a team to be greater than the whole of what one person could do. So if I tried to be full service marketing myself, I would fail. But if I can engage fractionally a team or an agency, like a marketing agency, and I certainly have tons of recommendations I could give you, probably a long list to let you pick from
Please.
yourself.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I would love to hear that.
I'll do that as a follow on. We've curated quite a list over the past 8 years, so I'll send
Can I
that to
put my
Joe after
email
this.
in here maybe, and you could just email it to me in the notes here?
Yeah, that'd be fine. I'd be happy to do that. Anybody who wants that resource, I can promise to send that out this week.
Awesome. Well, sorry I got kicked out there, Steve. We just like broke the internet together.
We're that popular.
We're that popular. I'm going to jump in the chat and see those follow-up questions that came in before. And Steve, you may be able to see some of the questions we haven't hit on. Jen's giving me some of the links as well. A lot of emails that you're getting there, buddy.
I know we got a lot of emails.
Yeah, a lot of people that want that resource.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm happy to send it. It's neat to see. And I will say I talk with people, it feels like all the time. Clinicians who come up to me and say, "Oh man, I've taken courses or I've joined the community with Joe and it's been a ton of value." They associate value to this. So like I saw this is a $199 value calculator. No, it's not. That's maybe the price that you sometimes sell it for, but the value is tremendous. So I mean, what a resource there in a bundle. So, but I do legit hear that all the time that they get value out of these courses and communities.
Thank you. Well, as questions are coming in, what are your kind of final thoughts on marketing? Like, let's kind of land it. I'm sure we may have a couple more questions come in, but when you think about marketing, what haven't we covered, and what do you want to make sure we get in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth talking about. This is like a natural extension of what we were just talking about. But, classic marketing, like if you go to school for marketing, pricing is a factor of your marketing. And there are great studies that have been done. There's a study that, there was a jeweler and she was having a hard time selling these necklaces. And so before she went on vacation, she scribbles this note to her assistant, half off, like put this price half off for these necklaces. She just wanted to get rid of them. And the assistant read it as double the price. And the owner comes back and the jewelry is all sold. Now there's a very fine, nuanced conversation to have about price gouging. What is price gouging? How do we make sure we're caring for the community? However, there is a struggle for people who oftentimes are philanthropic or in industries that they want to do good for the world, which is such a beautiful thing, in undervaluing that work to the point that they get burned out. And so while there are macro factors, pricing in a way that allows you to pay the clinicians, in a way that sustains their livelihood is a worthy, honorable thing. And, unless you make the intentional decision to just go pro bono or quasi pro bono, then that's another decision that is just as worthy. But you got to know your move there. But it's really a marketing function: product, place, price, promotion. And when we think marketing, we think promotion. But your facility, that experience when somebody walks in, that's marketing. That is like the place you are. And how does that connect to that through line of the outcomes you want to drive? And the products, quote unquote, it's at least a good exercise to think about what are the modalities, what are the side hustles, what am I working on, and how do I have the right product mix for where I want to take things? So it's all, again, like to Joe's point, begin with the end in mind. You're the captain of the ship. You have to set the course. And then it's about working toward that course, or that goal. But those are all marketing functions that we don't oftentimes think of. So I would think maybe a closing note would be make sure you're thinking about all of marketing.
I love that so much. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and Steve today, everybody, and letting us into your ears and into your brain. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much.
Today's episode was sponsored by Gusto. Gusto is who we use for our payroll solutions. I absolutely love it because it helps do all the taxes and file everything, and I don't have to worry about having a whole accounting team or bookkeeping team that's doing that payroll. So try gusto.com/Joe. You're going to get 3 months totally free. It's going to help you with your payroll and so many other things like doing open enrollment, filing payroll taxes, calculating paychecks, all that sort of stuff you can do with Gusto. Again, that's gusto.com/Joe. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.